Hello. Thank you for being here. I'm going to give it just a few seconds for people to come in, get comfortable, and then we will get started. Thank you again for being here. So to start with some housekeeping, Frankie, Bianca, and myself will be here during the webinar. If you have any technical issues with the audio, with the sound, please just put it in the chat box and we can help you with that. We will be here to monitor any type of technical assistance anybody needs. And then the Q&A box is open to ask questions during the webinar. If you want to put your questions in there, they'll be addressed at the end. But I know if you're anything like me, I need to address that question. I need to put it down as I think of it, or I'll forget it. So feel free to put the questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. They will just be answered towards the end. And then again, just thank you so much for being here. We are joined today by Reana Panday. You're going to learn about the programs with the Arc of New Jersey and navigating system agencies. So Reana or Anna is the communications coordinator at the Arc of New Jersey. She received her Bachelors of Arts from Vassar College, where she was introduced to mission-driven work centered around community engagement. During her undergrad, she served on the board for the college's Doctors Without Borders chapter and worked as a librarian assistant. Her passion for community education and literacy led her to become an adult and youth librarian in LaGrangeville, New York. Anna has since moved to central New Jersey and continues to serve as a liaison of communication and community in her new position at the Arc of New Jersey. She hopes to solidify the connections between the ARC's governmental advocacy with the public while promoting and supporting the ARC at large. We are so happy to have Anna as part of our team, and we are so happy to have her here today presenting this webinar. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Anna. Thanks again for being here.
No, thank you, Erin, for the opportunity to talk about the Arc of New Jersey. I mean, I know you, Frankie, and Bianca know plenty about it, but it's always great to share more about what we do and the different programs. So, hello again, everyone. My name is Rihanna, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Arc of New Jersey, where we've started and where we are, our statewide programs and a little bit about our local county chapters. So to begin, I like to start off the presentation with a little bit about the history and who we are. So the Arc of New Jersey is a nonprofit organization here in New Jersey that was founded in 1949 by family members of people with IDD. And it's a part of the Arc of the US, which is the largest and leading advocacy organization for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. New Jersey is very lucky to have several local county chapters of the ARC. We have 20 local county chapters, one for each county except for Bergen and Passaic counties, which share one, as well as a state office program, um, or our state office programs. So here at the Arc of New Jersey, we're focused on public policy, advocacy on all levels, both individual between people and then with systems such as education or employment. And we're also involved in governmental affairs and in the community. This is somewhat different from our local county chapters, which I'll talk more at the very end, which are centered around more day-to-day services such as rehabilitation services, day programs. Some counties have schools, things like that. And so that's kind of who we are in a nutshell. And then a little bit about our mission and why we do the work that we do, or what is the work that we do centered around. Our organization works to promote and protect the human rights of people with IDD. So that means that we support their full inclusion and participation in their communities. We do that through our statewide programs, but we also do it on making sure that people receive day-to-day care and feel empowered to be a part of our programs and help lead and integrate the change that needs to be done. Um, and as a little side note, I don't know why this isn't on the previous slide. That's my bad. But the ARC is not an acronym. It's just simply the ARC. It's never ARC, and ARC is not capitalized. It's just one word. It's just one phrase. So something about us. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the actual programs are kind of how they're centered and structured around. And so all of our programs are centered around these five aspects, which I'll talk about and name in a moment. And you'll find that they are evident in each of the programs to varying degrees. You'll find that some of our programs are very advocacy heavy, both system and on an individual level. And you'll find that some of our programs are more services, education training. But each of our programs still engage with these aspects on differing levels. So first we have systems advocacy, and what that means is advocacy on behalf of larger systems that people with IDD and their family interact with. Housing, education, employment, the government, whatever it may be. Policy is another one. And then there's individual and family advocacy, in which you advocate on behalf or with or provide the tools to become your own advocate. Community outreach and engagement, being a part of the community, being a part of the public, and reaching out to people who have IDD, people who have family members who do, or people who don't even know someone in their personal life who has IDD or what it looks like. And I'll talk more about what that last part means when we talk about our programs later. But we also provide education and training, and we also provide direct supports and services to people with IDD and their families. And so our first program is our Governmental Affairs and Communications program, which I'm a part of. And the way that these slides are structured, so that you can follow along, because they become kind of repetitive in their format, is the white text is at the very top is the program I'm talking about. And then the black text is the contact information for the person best suited to reach out to for questions or more information about a given program. The blue box is about the mission statement for that program, and then each of the purple boxes or photos are a little bit about what that program does. So Governmental Affairs and Communications is headed currently by Michael Pearson, Jr. And he works collaboratively with the legislature and the administration, which means the New Jersey government, to ensure that the well-being of people with IDD and their families are a priority both in the legislature, which means in our laws, in our bills, in the proposed fiscal budget, and are always at the forefront of our policymakers' minds. And so a large part of governmental affairs and communications is our advocacy. We track legislation that affects people with IDD, also their family, their caregivers, but also provider agencies such as the ARC of New Jersey. And we also track legislature surrounding DSP or direct support professional employment and wages. And that's because in order to give your all to caring for and being a part of change around disability rights, the ARC of New Jersey believes that it's important that your basic needs are met first. And so that means having a livable wage, which is why that's something we track every year. We also meet with policymakers and testify at Trenton at the State House when it comes to certain bills and policies. And we also maintain an e-advocacy network, which allows the public and people who care about disability issues to voice their opinion on certain legislature that we're trying to get more attention on. And so often this will look like you set up your email with us one time and you don't hear from us for a while, but then there's a bill that's being voted on, and we reach back out and say, um, click through this message to send your representative a letter saying you're in support or you're not in support, or sharing your story, because that's one of the most effective ways to change policymakers' minds and to really connect with them is sharing your story about and its relation to a policy and why it's important to you. Another thing that's not on here, because it's newer and I guess I forgot to mention it, or put it on the slide earlier, is starting next month, the Government Affairs and Communications Department and New Jersey Self-Advocacy Program will be holding the Governmental Affairs Ambassadors Program. And so that'll meet a month from today, and it meets quarterly, so 4 times every year. And Michael Pearson and Aaron Smithers will meet and discuss some of the legislature that the Arc of New Jersey is tracking, centered around people with IDD, and it kind of demystify some of those bills because if you I'm sure some of you know someone or have read a bill or heard of a bill, and it's kind of confusing as to what it means or what it actually would change. That's what that program is about. And if you're more interested in that, I would reach out to Erin, or you could reach out to me for more information. The next program is the Arc of New Jersey Family Institute, or just Family Institute for short. And it is currently headed by Jennifer Harrison. Um, the Family Institute serves to provide the necessary resources and education around state supports and services for family members who have for families who have a family member who has an intellectual or developmental disability. And so they also engage with advocacy, but their advocacy is less broad and more focused on advocating on behalf of family caregivers and uh, the position of families. The advocacy also exists to assist people who are applying for DDD supports and helping them with their DDD application. I'll talk a little bit more about this at the resources part, but the ARC of New Jersey Family Institute's program has their own website. So there's the ARC of New Jersey website, but the arcfamilyinstitute.org, which is at the top in black, um, they have their own website, and you can go there and fill out a form, or you can contact Jennifer directly for assistance with DDD applications. Um, the other portions of the Family Institute are education, community support, and their resources. So under education, they have a series of workshops and webinars that they offer, but they're moving towards a podcast fact sheet heavy education base now, because as people become more busy and need to return to topics more frequently, um, that's why the podcasts and the fact sheets are becoming more popular, or the demand was there, and so they're making more. So the podcast series range from all sorts of things. There's a podcast series about the various different day programs at each of the local county chapters, a podcast series about understanding some of the different acronyms and the lingo that is used when applying for DDD services, DVRS services, ABLE accounts, things like that. And so you can listen and get information that way. But if you're more of a visual person, there's also fact sheets on that same information for quick bits of information that you can access later. Um, they also host college tours about the various colleges that provide direct support during higher education for students with disabilities. These college tours are about once a month to once every 2 months, and they feature a different college in New Jersey that meet directly with the ARC of New Jersey's Family Institute program. Some of them are in person, so you can see the actual college, and then some of them are online with someone from the school to talk. to parents and to prospective students. Next is community support. Uh, the Family Institute does a really good job of connecting caregivers with supports that would best suit them at their local county chapters, but also local resources. And so that's a large part of what they do. And part of that comes from their problem intake form. That's a form on their website that you fill out with questions that you have or concerns that you have. And Jennifer or Nicoletta, who works with Jennifer, will get back to you and work with you one-on-one. They also have a newsletter called the Family Advocate, which comes out once a month and kind of recaps the month in the lens of family caregivers, gives resources, tells you what's going on behalf of the state in terms of caregiving for your loved one with IDD. Um, and they also have a recap of the different programs that are being held at, or the different webinars that are being held at the different programs. So that's also in that newsletter. They also, like I mentioned, have their website, which have a multitude of resources, but they also have go bags and my binder. And so I'll start with the first tool. So go bags are kind of like fact sheets, but have more resources. They are kind of, in a way, your like to go bag where all your information that you'd want on a certain topic would be. So there's a go bag for understanding what a day program is, how to find one, um, how you would be eligible, how to apply for things like that. There's a go bag on ABLE accounts, on guardianship, on various different topics that would affect a family or a person with IDD. They also have My Binder. So My Binder helps you organize the various different documents that people with IDD have to track over their periods of their life. Um, Say you have IEP documentation that you'll need to carry with you to college, or ABLE account information, or even information for applying for Medicare or Medicaid. My Binder is a tool that helps you organize all of that. So you know where it is, you know where to find it, and it's a very nice way of organizing it. So when it comes to applying for things, you have all the information there. So the next program is children's advocacy. And children's advocacy and planning for adult life are kind of subsects of the Family Institute, whereas the Family Institute covers families broadly and focuses on family caregivers. Um, Children's advocacy focuses on youth and children, specifically special education, but they also have resources and webinars and care a lot about childhood development, mental health, behavioral adjustment for children. And planning for adult life focuses on older teens, young adults, people who are transitioning from childhood to adulthood, because that is, I mean, there's so much planning for non-disabled teens. It's harder to navigate when there's so many systems in play. And so that's why planning for adult life exists. So first we'll begin with children's advocacy, which is headed by Adara Heilman. And they exist to connect children with IDD and their parent or guardian to the appropriate state services that will help them develop and achieve long-term goals. So they also engage with advocacy. Most of the legislation that Adara tracks is centered around special education, and she has provided testimony in Trenton, specifically to the Department of Education, on weighing in on special education and the rights of students in the classroom. She also meets with families, schools, and community partners to talk about the rights and the accommodations needed for children or students with disabilities, and how they can work together as a collective unit to help make sure a student has all the resources they need to succeed at school. Sorry, one moment. The next aspect of the children's advocacy program is education. Adara runs these Facebook Live mini sessions, these mini meetings called Advocacy with Adara, in which she sits down and goes over a brief overview of different topics surrounding children with IDD. This could be IEPs, also ABLE accounts, um, various different topics, and they're all archived on both Facebook and their website, so that way you can revisit them if you ever need a refresher on a topic. They also hold webinars. They're currently not holding webinars during the summer, but they will start up again in September. And these webinars are also on various different topics, um, and they are much longer versions of Advocacy with Adara. They're also archived on the website, so you can revisit older ones to see what topics have been covered in case you have questions about those. They also provide community presentations, and their website also has a collection of resources and information pages that have been collected from different organizations. So that way parents have uh, multiple different areas to get their information from. So that way, in case they don't find their answer one place, they can find it somewhere else. Excuse me. A large part of what children's advocacy does, like I mentioned before, is student support. And so Adara, as well as John, are like an information coordinator. They attend IEP meetings and 504 meetings and help the parent advocate on behalf of their child. Um, they do this throughout the state, both virtually and in person. Um, they also have their own problem intake form on their website, which is very similar to the Family Institute and like the other ones we'll talk about later on in the presentation, where you submit questions that you have and they can reach back to you there in a timely manner. They also have a youth advisory board, which is a virtual program that meets on Zoom once a month. It's for 14-year-olds to 21-year-olds, although it's grouped by age. And they meet and talk about issues affecting their own lives, whether or not it's centered around their disability or not, and work on ways that they can tangibly make changes in their communities. So I know one of the projects they were working on was meeting with their principal to talk about some of the language that is being used in school. And so it's a great way of getting students from all over the state to meet and talk to each other about issues that affect them all and not let people be siloed off in their own corners. Um, So yeah, they're always taking new participants, and you can sign up on their website or you can reach out to Adara to sign up. I know for 14 to 18-year-olds, they're not in session over the summer because the summer is busy. But if you know of anyone else, you can um, send them forward for the summer, or if not, wait off until school starts again. They also have, under resources, they also have their newsletter. It's called Table Talk. It is very special education focused, but it's also focused around raising a young child who has a developmental or intellectual disability. They also attend resource fairs, often at schools or at community events such as libraries. Adara also holds office hours, so you can meet with her one-on-one to discuss different topics or issues. And they also have their own fact sheets, which they create. So in addition to their website, which um, organizes information from different areas, they have their own fact sheets that provide the information that they find is the most pertinent. And so the next program would be Planning for Adult Life, which is headed by Rebecca Nash, which assists young adults, so students or teens between the ages of 16 to 21 with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families in charting a life course for adulthood. And so often we'll call this transitioning when you're moving on from your childhood to adulthood and you're kind of in this gray area. So a lot of their program is transition based. And their transitions based is surrounded about these, I believe, eight core areas. So they focus on post-education, post-secondary education, so college or vocational training and employment, housing, legal and financial planning, entitlement programs and eligibility, self-direction, health and behavioral health, building and maintaining community ties and friendships, and then planning and visioning a life course. So I've broken up what they do into education outreach, support, and their resources. So for their education, that is centered around the general public, just reaching out. They have a webinar series as well called Meet Us in the Middle, in which they have a different topic every single month that a speaker comes in and discusses something about transitions and transition plannings. And so the one coming up next week or this month is centered around pre-ETS or pre-employment transition services or training services. And so they'll have a speaker come and talk a little bit about that. How do you know if pre-ETS is right for you or your child? And what does it look like? Where do you find a pre-ET that works for you? And like I said, the topic changes every month and it runs throughout the year. They also go into schools and provide school presentations. And Rebecca Nash, as well as the transition navigator that works with her, Kat, they have office hours that they hold regularly through multiple times throughout the month. They also have parental and professional support. So for parents, they hold parent community circles and parent boot camps. The boot camps are more of like a training or a workshop in which they can learn about the different um, aspects around these core areas that will affect their child. And parent community circles are more of discussion groups and community-based resource where parents can meet with each other and discuss issues that are happening and kind of take initiative that way. The teacher lab, which is the last bullet point under supports, is a curriculum for professional development for teachers. And so Rebecca and Kat will go in and meet with teachers and refresh or provide new findings or what is going on around special education, what is there to look out for, what does special education look like, and how refreshing for them what it means to be a special education teacher and provider. And then lastly, under resources, they have their own monthly newsletter, which is called the PFAL Intel, which is surrounded around transition-based areas. And then they also house fact sheets. They also have a problem intake form on their website, as well as a help desk. The help desk is an email, which is info@planningforadultlife.org that you can reach out to them. And in case you don't want to fill out the form, and they can get back to you there. And also they attend resource fairs as well to provide resources to high schools mostly. Mhm. Thank you all for your patience. I know this is a long presentation. The next program we have is Healthcare Advocacy. This is headed by Connor Griffin, who is the director. And they advocate for quality healthcare for people with IDD and monitor and advocate for changes in Medicaid and Medicare. So similar to PFAL, there are a list of core areas that healthcare advocacy uses to guide their work, namely the state's Medicaid, which is New Jersey Family Care, dual eligibility for Medicaid and Medicare, SSI, SDI, DAC and non-DAC, oral and dental health, dual diagnosis, which is being diagnosed with IDD and then also a mental health concern or a behavioral concern or condition, medical care services, and provider referrals. And so in terms of healthcare advocacy, they also host webinars and weekly check-in sessions. For Connor, he runs Catching Up with Connor, which is very similar to Advocacy with Adara, in which he goes on Facebook Live for 10 to 15 minutes and talks about a topic that you can come back to and refresh later on. These are also archived and recorded and put on the Facebook and his website, but you can also catch them live. He also runs the annual Beverly Roberts Memorial Symposium that brings together providers in healthcare and healthcare agencies from across the state to meet and discuss the health and healthcare quality for people with IDD. He also runs a webinar series every year. Every year he picks a different topic, and so this year he's focused around women's health. The upcoming present webinar is also next week. It's centered around Alzheimer's and an Alzheimer's study that two researchers, professional investigators worked on, and they will be presenting on that next week. He also does community presentations, often with NJCDD or with the Garden State Coalition for Care. And these are to make healthcare for people with IDD more present in the public, understanding what it looks like and in what ways is it uh, unique, in what ways is it not. Um, he also does individual support. Connor is very adamant about not just making sure that healthcare is accessible for people with IDD, but that it's also quality healthcare. And so he can connect you with some providers, and he can also meet with you one-on-one to talk about any of these core areas, or even if they overlap, which they often do, kind of navigate where one thing starts and where one thing ends. He also maintains a monthly newsletter called The Healthy Times, which is centered around healthcare. He also has a list of fact sheets around topics that are pertinent to healthcare advocacy, and also maintains a problem intake form on his website, as well as a help desk, which is similarly info@healthcareadvocacy.org, an email. The next program, which I'm sure you're all somewhat familiar with, is the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Program, one of the older programs at the Arc of New Jersey, and it is currently headed by the great Erin Smithers. And they worked to support individuals with IDD in learning the skills necessary to speak for themselves, organizing around issues of importance to them, and working collectively on projects of their choosing. And so, much of the advocacy we talked about before is about equipping people with tools, so that way they can understand navigating systems on behalf of their loved ones or themselves in a certain area. But the self-advocacy program is unique in that it serves to empower people with IDD to speak up on the issues they care about and provide the tools necessary to do so. And so one way that this is structured around is the New Jersey statewide self-advocacy network, in which there are 6 councils statewide. 5 of them are, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but they are split up geographically, and members from each of the councils also meet to make up the 6th council. And each of these councils meet monthly and discuss advocacy issues, things going on in their lives, and what it means to be a self-advocate, and those topics. They meet with legislators and policymakers, and they do sometimes provide testimony. As I mentioned way earlier on in the beginning, policymakers really want to hear about what it actually means to have an intellectual and developmental disability, because it's it's an experience that only someone who has a disability can speak of. It's that saying nothing for us without us. And so that is why NJSSAN does what it does and why it's so powerful. They also host an annual a conference for NJSSAN, which I believe meets in the fall and is upcoming. So look out for details on that. But self-advocates can meet and come together, not just the ones that meet at the Sixth Council, but come together and discuss issues around advocating and things that need to get done on a statewide level. They also provide training and programming similar to this. Um, I'll start from the bottom. They currently are working on their Healthy Lifestyles Project, HLP, in which they are working to empower and provide self-advocates with the tools necessary to live a healthy life. And that means physically and emotionally healthy. And so you'll find virtual trainings on nutrition or fitness or well-being. And you'll also find that they do some programming in person. They have their Trailblazers programming going on this summer, in which they meet in Watchung, I believe, to go for a hike every week and promote healthy living that way. They also host webinars on a variety of topics. They will send out an email reminder of the um, different webinars that are held each week. And it's a good way to make sure that you're receiving all the information of all the programs that they do, because there is quite a variety. They also do lifestyle-based and educational programming that can take the form of video series, but also having speakers come in and speak as well. They also do trainings on very different scales and levels throughout the years. I have voting training here, as it is something that is very pertinent to this community. People with IDD vote at significantly lower rates than non-disabled people. And so a large part of what they do is around the general election is telling people where they should go vote, how they should go vote, and walking you through that. They also help work on the Get Out the Vote guide and help encourage people with IDD to vote and help them understand the resources that they may need to go out and get their vote heard or counted. They also have three publications. So they have three newsletters, a biannual newsletter, which comes out twice a year, called The Self-Advocate, that recaps that half of their year. A monthly Advocacy Matters program, which is a monthly newsletter centered around their work within that month, things to pay attention to, and the advocacy that has been going on that month. And then the Positive Pulse, which is another monthly newsletter, which ties directly to the Healthy Lifestyles Project and helps refresh some of the lifestyle and healthy living programming that they do. They also, on their website, have multitude of fact sheets and handouts. And they also regularly run social media campaigns, and they have they have their YouTube videos, which is an extensive archive of videos such as this one that have been held. So that way, in case you miss something now, you can always return to it at another point. I believe their current social media campaign, which they could also correct me on if I get this wrong, is about the Americans with Disabilities Act and what it means to you, an everyday person, and why it's important that we still remember and acknowledge the importance of the ADA and the work that still needs to get done even 36 years later. So that's NJSAP. The next program is Criminal Justice Advocacy Program, which is headed by Robin Holt, the current director. The Criminal Justice Advocacy Program, or CJAP, is the only program in New Jersey State that advocates on behalf of people with IDD who are defendants or accused of a crime in the criminal justice system and provides alternatives to incarceration, dependent on the scale of crime. A large part of what they do is case management. So they do a wonderful job of intaking people, assigning them a case manager, following that person and their family from pre-trial, during trial, and then post-trial. They get to know the person and who that person was in their community, and understand, do they have the understanding of, do I understand that what I did was a crime? And they take their education. They take, if they were, involved in their church, if they were involved in their community, if they went to their day program, they take things like that into account when they write their personalized justice plan or their PJP, and advocate on behalf of that person and say, this is not like, um, this is a person who needs to be treated with care in the criminal justice system, and this is why, and this is who this person is. And so a lot of their advocacy comes from attending court hearings, and meeting with people, with lawyers, and um, serving as an advocate on their behalf. They also do training and education. Um, Earlier on in the presentation, when I mentioned that some of the education is not just for people who know people with IDD, a lot of their trainings and education is not for people who may know someone with IDD or have met someone. Um, or know what that presents like. So they do crisis intervention trainings at police stations often, and they meet with officers to help teach them what um, a person who has IDD in crisis looks like, and explains different de-escalation techniques, and it kind of walk them through why this looks different, or why it might be jarring for a person with IDD to not fully understand a situation, what stimming looks like, what uh, things that they should know, like the blue envelope look like, things like that. They also do trainings for court personnels on similar topics, also community providers, families, jails, and prisons. They also do college presentations. So a great thing that Robin and her department does is they meet with um, future lawyers, future social workers, future police officers, future judges, and show and provide these de-escalation techniques, explain to them what it's like for a person with IDD in New Jersey, and get them that information early so that way they don't have so that way they have this understanding and empathy earlier on in their career rather than training them afterwards. So that way when they are trained in de-escalation techniques, when they are a police officer, it's already somewhat ingrained and it's somewhat second nature, and it's just something that needs to be solidified. As I mentioned before, most of their advocacy comes from attending court on behalf of their client, but they also hold or they held their first IDD and Justice Innovation Summit, which they hope to continue on in the future, which brought together different stakeholders um, of people involved in this issue, in education, in the police force, the prosecutor's office, as well as several ombudsmans for people with IDD, mental health, corrections, and incarceration, and had dialogues and conversations about what needs to be done to um, make sure that IDD isn't stigmatized against, and to make sure that police officers are using these de-escalation techniques and understand how crises may look differently for a person with a disability. They also have their under resources and information now. They have their Equal Justice Talks webinar series. So that's another yearly series. It's not currently running in the summer. It'll pick up again in September, but they bring in different speakers to speak on different topics related to this. They also have legal and court resources on their website. CJAP cannot provide legal assistance or legal advice, but they can connect you to someone and resources. They also have their monthly newsletter, which is called Equal Justice Journal. And it recaps the trainings and the pertinent news happening around the criminal justice system in the face of people with IDD. Mhm. Um, our next program, which is Project Hire, is headed by Colleen Colick. And Project Hire is a supportive employment program, um, which is funded both by DDD and DVRS. So it's an employment and training program for adults with IDD and provides training services designed to assist schools in developing and implementing quality transition plans for students in special education programs. So they help adults with IDD find and secure employment, and they also help students um, obtain internships or understand employment with a disability and accommodations. So for supportive employment, they are very big on connecting people to community integrated employment opportunities, which means finding them jobs that they want and fit their needs, but also, excuse me, are integrated in the community. So they're public facing. They're not hidden away or working alone in a desk, but that they are part of a team if they want to be a part of a team or working with someone. Um, they serve 13 counties throughout the state. Middlesex, where the Arc of New Jersey State Office is one of them. They also do training and planning or career planning. So this allows their clients to obtain information on different job skills that are necessary for different jobs, such as typing or um, learning about which jobs would suit their needs best, say if they need more frequent breaks, or if they don't mind standing for a period of time, or if they like working with their hands, or if they like talking to people versus if they don't like any of those things. It helps when the job coaches can sit down and uh, gauge the level that of job or the area of job that the person is hoping to seek or hoping to fulfill and match them with that employment service and help them get the jobs that they need or job skills that they need to do that job that they want to do. So they do a lot of that. They also have Project Search, which is an internship opportunity for young adults who are in their last year of high school to go to one of three New Jersey hospitals. I believe it's currently Overlook Hospital this past year, and do an internship in one of the departments. And from this past cohort, two interns actually got hired. One is going to be a sec tech, which I think is screening something for healthcare. He knows better than I do. And then the other one is working with some of the customer service aspects of it. And so it's a very fulfilling program, and the students get a lot of hands-on learning experience. They also have other services. They do intensive support. So if you need a job coach with you when you're performing your work, they have jobs and supports around that. They also have long-term follow along services in which the job coach becomes progressively more hands-off and checks in with the person who's being employed as well as the employer to make sure everyone is still on the same page, as well as trial work experience, work, which is short-term work to figure out if a certain job or if even employment is the best move for you. So that's Project Hire. The second to last program we have to talk about today, I know it's been a lot of programs, is Training and Consultation Services, which is headed by Samantha Goldfarb. She provides training for staff as well as technical assistance to supportive employment providers and support coordinators like job coaches self-advocates, families, and schools. So she does a lot of provider heavy support. So she'll provide trainings and consultations so that way employers can best carry out their supportive employment programs. They know how to form a good relationship with the job coach, with the person being employed, how to best provide accommodations. Um, but they also, or some TCS, training and consultation services, also does provide trainings for people who are looking to um, gain some information on obtaining a better resume or working on their interview skills, things like that. Um, a caveat with TCS, however, is they can only do DDD funded supportive employment providers, not DVRS as well. Um, And they also have open trainings. They do two, I believe, every month. And the open trainings are on a different topic, and you can just come in, sit down, and receive that training, as opposed to most of the trainings, which require you to sign up in a form in advance and book a time and explain how much staff will be there and such. A lot of Samantha's advocacy is through APSE, so the Association for People Supporting Employment First, which is a national nonprofit, but also a statewide nonprofit. She is a board member along with Erin for the New Jersey chapter, and they discuss community integrated employment for people with IDD and topics surrounding that. She did just attend the National APSE conference. She presented a few years ago and last year, but she did not present this year, but received and made connections to strengthen her program. Uh, she also has a variety of resources. She also hosts office hours, so you can meet with her one-on-one there. Um, she also has a monthly newsletter and a training catalog. So her monthly newsletter kind of talks about what's going on in employment for people with IDD, but also recaps anything going on in her department. The training catalog, which accompanies the monthly newsletter, and both of which are available on their website, even if you don't receive it in your email, have the list of all the available trainings that are currently being offered. So, say you're interested in one particular training and you want to receive it for your, or would like it to be presented for your staff, you would request it through the training catalog. She also has a Fast Facts YouTube series. Her YouTube channel is different from NJSAP, the only other program with a YouTube channel. And there she has um, 2 to 3 minute videos centered around explaining different topics and acronyms that someone would face. Mostly around job coaching, but also somewhat professional development skills like interviewing and resume building. And so the final program we have to talk about today is perhaps the most fun. It's Camp JC, which is headed currently by Brittany Barclay. Um, it is a residential summer camp for adults ages 18 to 77 with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's located in Effort, Pennsylvania. So while the Arc of New Jersey helps supports the camp does exist on its own in Pennsylvania. Um, it is 1 to 8 weeks. You can decide however long you would like to go. And it's really centered around um, creating independence, but also community through different social activities in nature. And so they have a long list of possible activities that you can do on any given day. And the counselors are really supportive. And it's a great way to really enjoy your summer and be outside and connect with other people. And so those were all of our programs. And that is what we do at the state office. We are really focused around those 5 principles that I mentioned earlier around advocacy, community engagement, services, education. And that is also true for our local county chapters, but they do a lot of the day-to-day work, or the day-to-day services rather, that people with IDD or the public recognize off of the top of their heads, such as day programs and such. Some of them offer different programs, like they have their own camps. Like I know Essex County has their own camp. Um, there's also uh, local county chapters that have schools or uh, a program for getting out into the community. I'm sure many of you might be familiar with a lot of those, or have at least heard of someone who has been a part of a local county chapter service. They're really great people, and who run those local county chapters and work there. Um, and as I mentioned, there's 20. And if you're ever interested in their services, you can use this QR code, which will take you to our website. And under our website's About section, there's a list of all of them and how to reach out and contact them. Similarly, you could always reach out to me. So this final slide, if you have any questions, if you're not sure if who is the best person to go to on any given question, a lot of this overlaps, right? So you might think something is a question for Family Institute, and but it also maybe it has to do with healthcare, and so it also falls under healthcare advocacy. Um, you could always reach out to anyone that whose contact information is there, but if you're ever curious, you can reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to take some. And thank you all for listening and for your time. I know it was long, but thank you. I appreciate it.
It is a lot of information, but we do a lot at the Arc of New Jersey, so
Yeah.
it's going to be. This was a fantastic presentation. I really appreciate you putting this together, Anna. We did a series in 2024, and we do have some loyal attendees. So if you were here for that, you'll notice that a lot has changed in the last 2 years. So it is important to update our information. We have a lot of new directors at the Arc of New Jersey. So this was fantastic to present and fantastic information to get out. So we appreciate that. This is also going to be part of the playlist that we have, along with those other videos doing kind of an overview of each program. But this one encompasses all of them in one, so it's fantastic. We currently don't have any questions. I think you did a very good job of going over all of the information, although there is still so much more that all of the programs do. So the website is the best way to get more of that information, or reaching out to Anna directly. But if you do have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box or in the Q&A box.
And if you ever think of a question afterwards, reach out to me afterwards, or um, yeah, if you ever need anything. I know it's like not a question heavy because I told you what we did. How do you know what we don't do? How do you know to ask, or how do you know what to ask when I didn't tell you that information?
You can reach out anytime. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for doing this, and thank you all for attending. We really appreciate it. And as always, if you need anything or if you have any other questions, please reach out to Anna, or you can reach out to us at NJSAP, and we would be happy to help you. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. And thank you again for coming here and being a part of this.